The True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
If you'd like to skip the intro, please refer to the timestamp listed in the episode description. Thank you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is still April 18th here. We're recording a little bit in advance because Olivia's going away. She'll probably be back at this point, so hopefully...
Yeah, I think I would have just gotten
Hopefully
back.
you had a great trip and you're loving life.
Hopefully I'll have some exciting news to talk about because I've got really nothing left to talk about now.
Yeah, so we can't give a weather update. I know everyone will be so disappointed. It's dark out here right now, so can't even see. In terms of things to chat about, we were just thinking I haven't given a house update for a bit. So even though this will probably be like 2 weeks out now, so hopefully things will be in a much better state by the time this episode comes out. Fingers crossed, because I was just saying to Olivia yesterday that this kitchen renovation is becoming my car brand with 3 letters situation that she had. It's just been so annoying. Like, the whole thing has been... It's like we ask for one thing and then they forget about it, and then we have to bring it up again, and then we have to like go back and pay for different things all these separate times. It's like hard to explain it all without getting into too much boring detail. But basically it's just been a real clusterfuck from the start. So then we tell them we want them to do the demolition, do all that. I think I started this like in February and it is March, and literally nothing. It's April, I mean, hello. Nothing has been done in the house yet. So then they tell us we need a permit. And I was like, okay. So they apply for the permit, whatever. And it took 3 weeks to get the permit because it is a small town here and they're very slow, I guess. And then when we get the permit, the lady from the company tells us, oh, it turns out we didn't even need a permit. And I was like, great. So you just wasted 3 weeks of my time with no kitchen, still waiting for this permit that I don't need, that I also paid for. Like, well, if we don't use it, we'll like reimburse you the money. And I was like, okay.
Oh, good. Well, at least that's a small win.
Yeah, I guess. But so then they're like, okay, we're gonna come do the demolition Monday, and it is Thursday right now. So we're like, oh, okay, that was fast. And now they're like pressing us to be like, oh, did you get the electrician yet? We need the electrician to come in and do these outlets. And I was like, no, because I'm poor and y'all were taking forever, so I was waiting until I heard an update about this permit. So they're pressuring us to get the electrician in there, like, ASAP. And, like, all the electricians around here are booked out, like, 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. So someone's coming on Sunday to do an estimate. So, and now I have to clean out this kitchen, which has become kind of like a random storage room. So I have to get everything out of there. It's been such a headache. Honestly, if you want to renovate your kitchen, just don't.
Just leave
just
it.
Don't.
Just don't cook.
Just get like...
Just get DoorDash.
Mine's in a state where I don't have a choice. But if you do have the choice, just paint it. Just get new appliances. Or just do like the cabinet resurfacing, whatever they do, which is still really expensive. Because this has just been the worst.
Hopefully by the time we record again, you'll have some amazing kitchen pics to share and updates.
I'll still be waiting for the electrician, probably, apparently.
Oh, goodness.
But it sucks. Like, it was fun. It was fun for a while because I was like, I don't like cooking or buying groceries anyway, so now I have an excuse. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, I need to get back into a routine because I'm so sick of... I use my crock pot and stuff like that when I can. But even just making a sandwich or something is hard because I don't have any counters. We're using like this desk as just like a temporary spot to keep all of our little snacks and stuff. But you don't have any of the storage kitchen offers. All of our kitchen stuff is still in boxes because we really don't have anywhere to put it. So I'm buying plastic utensils, plastic and paper plates and cups. But even I just wanted to make a little sandwich the other day, and that was a pain because I was like, I don't have a knife and I have to use this plastic knife and I don't even know where anything is, and there's no space to do anything.
You won't know yourself when you get an actual working kitchen.
It's just like, I say this now, I'm like, I'll never take it for granted again, but I know immediately once I'm like, I have to cook. But
no, thank you.
I'm excited to have a dishwasher because I haven't had a dishwasher forever.
That's like, I feel like anytime my dishwasher is broken, I'm like, I need to have this fixed. Some things you're like, I'll just get around to it, but I cannot be washing up with 4 people. I know, and that sounds like some people are like, well, I've got 10 people in my house, but so many dishes. So that is one of my favorite appliances.
There's so many people who I think they're lying, but they're like, I don't even use mine. Like, I just wash everything. And I'm like, okay, you're insane. Like,
I chuck everything in the dishwasher.
I get some things are easier to just hand wash. It's quicker. But utensils and stuff, once they start to build up, they're so annoying to wash. Like, I don't want to wash 20 forks. I'm a busy gal, okay? But yeah, so that's the latest. Just like a big money suck. I'm poor now, so if anyone wants to just like send me $1 million, that'd be great.
Yeah, sponsor us for $1 million. That'd be nice.
If anyone just wants to gift it to me. So yeah, are you getting ready for your trip at least?
Yeah, I am. So we've got a house/dog sitter coming, so I've been starting to do a bit of a deep clean for that. Yeah, I am getting ready. I went away last weekend with book club just to Sydney for the night. So I've got I haven't even put my suitcase away. I'm like, I'm going to need it anyway. I'll just leave it out. So yeah, I picked up my US dollars yesterday. I have to find because obviously our electrical outlets, points, I don't know, voltages are different. So I've got the adapters somewhere. I've got to find them. So yeah, just try to get organized. Yeah. And I've got a busy weekend too. Like my daughter is in a dance competition tomorrow. So I'll be in Sydney all day for that. So I know I'm cutting it fine. But I just keep thinking Thursday I'll be at the airport. I can almost taste the airport champagne. And it's good too, because I don't know if you are the same, but like anytime I have to fly somewhere, if I have to fly early in the morning, I can't, I hardly sleep the night before. I'm like,
yeah.
What if I sleep through the alarm? But then this flight isn't until 4 p.m. So I'm like, wow, I could just get up anytime and still make it. So it's like it's going to be way less rushed on the day, which is good. And then the flight times are pretty good too. Like we leave here at 4:30 p.m., get there at 6 a.m. So hopefully if we can get a little bit of sleep on the flight, which will kind of match up with our body clocks anyway, it should be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am excited. I can't believe how quickly it's come around. It's like I feel way less prepared than I usually do, but I'm like, we'll be fine.
It did come up fast. I feel like when we first started trying to plan ahead, I was like, oh, it's so far away. And now it's here.
Yeah. The weather does look amazing. There's a bit of a weather update. It does say windy, but when I look at the webcam, it doesn't look that windy. So I'm like, oh, it's fine.
On the webcam.
What does the meteorologist know? But sunny, doesn't look like there's any rain planned yet that I can see. So fingers crossed.
Well, hope you have a lovely time.
Thank you. Yes, I'll keep you all updated. Post some photos. So make sure you follow us, TCS Olivia, or on Patreon. I'll post some photos too. But this will come out after anyway, so a bit of a midpoint. Anyway, follow us in advance for next time.
Yeah, for our next adventure.
So before we get into the episode, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, Fume. Have you ever tried to break a bad habit and it feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops? We've all been there. I know how hard it is. But here's a breath of fresh air, Fume. It's not about giving up, it's about switching up. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device that does just that. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors.
So you get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Fume, it's really cool. It's just flavored air. I didn't really know what to expect when I first got mine and I tried it, but there's all different flavors and they taste really good. It's great for when you feel like you want a little treat just to have one. The flavors, they taste a lot kind of like refreshing herbal tea. Like there's a crisp mint one. That's definitely my favorite one. It's so delish. Like, is that the right word? Yes, I guess.
So refreshing. I know it sounds silly to say air is refreshing, but it really is.
Yeah, it's hard to describe because it's so unique. Start the year off right with a good habit by going to tryfume.com/TCS and getting the Journey Pack today. Fume is giving listeners of the show 10% off when they use our code TCS to help make starting the good habit that much easier. Again, it's tryfume.com/TCS. journeypack.com/TCS for 10% off the Journey Pack today. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about an older case, but it does get recommended or suggested and sent to us a lot.
I feel like this is one that's pretty well known in the kind of true crime world, and because it involves so many people as well, it's that little bit more intriguing, but a wild case.
And they all have very similar names in the sense that they all start with an S to make it confusing.
Yeah.
But we are talking about the case of the Springfield Three, which is a case of 3 women who went missing in 1992, very mysteriously, seemingly just vanished out of one of their homes after a fun night out. And 32 years later, they are still missing. And there's a lot of strange men who have been theorized to be involved that we'll get into as well. Is this a case that you read a lot about? I've always known of it, but I've never deep dived it before.
Yeah, I have always kind of followed it. We'll get into some kind of developments that happen in the case and all that. So I've kind of followed the things over the years because I feel like you wouldn't I know it is a cold case because essentially it's 32 years old, but it still has been ongoing over the years. It's not like there's been nothing happening in the case. So over the years, I've definitely followed it. I didn't realize until we did the notes how many kind of shady people were possibly involved. It's crazy, but a very interesting case. I think it is interesting.
Whenever there's one like this where I know it's getting ahead a little, but we mentioned at least 3 or 4 just sketchy dudes that were known to the girls or lived in the area and things like that. It always makes me think, how many really sketchy people do I know, but I just don't know they're sketchy?
Yeah, you just I always wonder. Yeah, I know. There's a whole other conversation. We could probably do a whole other episode on it, on people who don't realize
Rex
that
Heuermann,
they're actually
just walking down the city streets.
And you always hear, even recently there was a mass stabbing in Sydney, which was absolutely horrendous. But all these people have now come out and said, I dated him and I had no idea. It's just crazy how you can associate with someone who may be capable of horrible things. It's quite scary.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Like I said, their names are all similar, so try to keep track of who's who. So this happened on June 7th, 1992. We have Suzanne, who goes by Suzie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Sherrill Levitt, who is Suzie's mother.
They are known simply as the Springfield Three. 18-year-old Stacy McCall wanted to attend Missouri State University.
I want to hear about Stacy.
I would say she was so funny and bubbly, and she would do things, and we called her Spacey Stacy because she would come out with things that would be kind of space cadet things.
Suzie Streeter, just 19, wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps and be a hairdresser.
Very outgoing, fun, happy. Suzie was a creature of habit, almost OCD to some degree. There were some things that I teased her about. Where she parked her car in the driveway was always the same.
And Suzie's mom, Sherrill, she had just bought her dream home in a nice, safe part of Springfield, Missouri.
She is pretty fierce lady. She didn't do a lot of half measures in her life.
So they all went missing out of Springfield, Missouri, hence the name Springfield Three. Some background into the location. Springfield, the population in 1992 was around 142,000 people, and it's hard to find any confirmed crime statistics from 1992. But as of 2021, Safewise put out a list of the 10 most dangerous cities in America, and Springfield came in at number 5, the only spot in Missouri. So with a crime rate of 63 per 1,000 residents, Springfield has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, from the smallest towns to the largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 16. So that's kind of crazy. If there's a room of 16 people, one of those people is getting a crime.
And I know those stats are current, so people will be like, oh, it's redundant. But I just feel like this is this is my personal opinion. So if I am wrong, please let me know. But I feel this would have been building up over time. It wouldn't just all of a sudden have this much crime. I feel like this is probably indicative of how Springfield, maybe it's gotten worse, maybe it's gotten better, we're not sure. But I feel like this is probably a crime trend that we've seen in Springfield ongoing over the years. I don't think it just would have come out and all of a sudden in 2021 it would have been the 5th most dangerous city in the country. It's just to give you a bit of a background anyway, and it also would explain why there are so many seemingly dangerous people involved in this case, or possibly involved.
So Sherrill Elizabeth Levitt, this is the mother of Suzie. She was born on September 1st, 1944 in LA to her parents James Dale Williams and Edna Maxine Wynn. In 1964, Sherrill married her first husband, Brent Streeter, and she gave birth to a son named Bart, and then she gave birth to Suzie in 1973. She divorced Brent not long after Suzie was born. She told friends that Brent believed they should divorce and keep living together, which would mean that Sherrill could get welfare. She ended the relationship instead. In 1980, she met her second husband, Don Levitt, and moved from Seattle to Springfield, and she divorced Don in 1989. His creditors began asking Sherrill to pay his debts, and she was unable to locate him in order to get him to settle his finances, so she and Suzie moved into a smaller house on East Delmar Street in an effort to lessen the impact on her finances.
So this is the smaller house that they moved into, I guess, to help maybe Sherrill, Sherrill, I don't know, there are so many. So this is the smaller house they moved into, I guess, in an effort for Sherrill to be able to afford it better based on these kind of financial issues that she was having. The address is very well known. It's 1717 East Delmar Street in Springfield. There are Zillow photos up. They look fairly recent. It's quite a small place. It says 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,498 square feet. Currently valued as $194,000. I'll just see if it has. It says here, cute house in the Roundtree School District. Obviously, this is an updated listing, but this is just to give you an overview of where all this happened. It says hardwood floors throughout the house, large 3rd bedroom or second living area that could make a great entertainment room, complete with closet for storage space, large fenced backyard. Like a lot of it looks like it's been updated, but basically it's a smallish house with a carport off to the side. Looks like literally you'd walk into the lounge room. You can even see the front door, and literally right in front of the front door there's a couch. So it's very compact. A wooden kitchen, which I assume looks very original back to the 1990s.
I'm surprised there's so many pictures on Zillow, considering it's not on the market. They usually take them down.
And especially considering it's like a well-known crime scene house, I guess, too. Yeah. But basically, I guess the main points are very small, especially there's no way you wouldn't know what was going on in the house.
Yeah, just an average little house.
Yeah, little house, yeah. Yeah, I'll put the photos are on the blog if you want to check out more about where this kind of all happened.
So Sherrill was 47 years old at the time she disappeared. She worked as a cosmetologist at New Attitudes Hair Salon, where she was said to have had over 250 customers. She was a single mother to Suzie, and the two were said to be very close. So then on to her daughter Suzie. She was born on March 9th, 1973 in Seattle, Washington, to her parents Sherrill and Brent. When she was only 6 months old is when the parents divorced, like we mentioned, and she never lived with her father. In April 1992, Suzie and Sherrill moved into the home at East Delmar Street, and Suzie planned to follow in her mother's footsteps and enroll in cosmetology school after she graduated. She was working at the time at a local movie theater, and Suzie was said to have had difficulty reading and may have been dyslexic. She was in a class for students with learning disabilities. Suzie was 19 years old when she disappeared, and she had shoulder-length blonde hair and brown eyes. She also had a scar on her upper right arm, a small mole on the left corner of her mouth, and had pierced ears, with her left ear being pierced twice. And then the third victim in the story is Stacy. She was born on April 23rd, 1974, to her parents Janice and Stu McCall. She has 2 older sisters, and when she vanished, she was 18 years old. She had long, dark blonde hair and light eyes. So Stacy and Suzie, the 2 girls, they originally became friends during 2nd grade. When Stacy was 11, her family moved out of state and would return a few years later. After Stacy graduated, she planned to enroll at Southwest Missouri State University and planned to join a sorority. Stacy worked as a receptionist for Springfield Gymnastics, and she occasionally modeled wedding dresses for a store owned by family friends called The Total Bride. And if you look at a picture of them, they're both cute. young girls, if it matters.
They're all blonde.
Yeah.
Like, I think you said one of them has like like
Brown
basically
hair,
they all
they said,
look
but-
blonde, like mousy or blonde hair, very attractive women. Very like the photos, there's a lot of very 90s photos that I've seen, glamour shots and stuff like that. But yeah, they all look kind of similar, like they could all be related. But yeah, just some background into who they are.
Yeah. So Stacy and Suzie graduated from Kickapoo High School on June 6, 1982, and that night all three women attended the graduation ceremony, which was held at Missouri State University Hammond Student Center. So Sherrill was probably there watching her daughter graduate. After the ceremony ended, Suzie and Sherrill got takeout pizza at their home around 6 p.m., and Stacy told her parents that she wanted to go to some parties with Suzie later that night. She told them that she would spend the night at a hotel in Branson, Missouri, before going to the Whitewater theme park with friends the next day. So at 8:30 p.m., Suzie and Stacy arrived at a friend's party on Coach Drive in Battlefield, Missouri. And then at 10 p.m., Stacy called home and told her mother that she would not be going to Branson after all. She said she was going to stay with her friend Janelle Kirby in Springfield, and Suzie told her mother the same information. So Sherrill, the mother, back to her, was last heard from by a friend around 11:15 p.m. on June 6th. She spoke on the phone with this person about painting a piece of furniture. The girls, they kept partying into the early hours of June 7th. They went to another party on East Hanover Street in Springfield, and they arrived there around 1:30 a.m. But that party ended soon after because the police were called. So the girls at that point decided they didn't want to spend the night at Janelle's house anymore as it was too crowded. So they decided to go back to Suzie's home to spend the night. Suzie received a brand new waterbed as a graduation present, and the girls wanted to try it out. Sign of the times.
So, yeah, I was just about to say, so 1990s.
I don't think I've ever been on a waterbed, but...
It's so funny how waterbeds just died. Like, I'm guessing they're horrible for your back, but, it's just, can you even buy them anymore?
I don't know. My parents said they had one, but it was either when I was very little or before I was born. And I think the dog popped it, which sounds like a mess to clean up.
Before we finish off with the episode, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, Thrive Market. One thing we all have to do, no matter how much we don't want to, is grocery shop. So why not do it from the comfort of your own couch? That's where Thrive Market comes in. The no junk food, healthy grocery store that even kids love. So Thrive Market can be your go-to for all grocery and household essentials, and the convenience of getting everything online then quickly shipped to your doorstep is such a huge time saver.
I love that Thrive Market carries brands with the highest quality ingredients and sourcing. Whether you're looking for organic kid snacks, low-sugar alternatives, or gluten-free pantry essentials, you can curate your own shopping experience with a few clicks to make simpler, healthier swaps. One thing that I got that I love is I got some Yum Earth organic pops. They're lollipops, and you get this huge bag. I think it's 40 lollipops, and they're such a great little treat when you just want a little sweet treat. When I think of it, I grab a couple and I toss them in my purse. So then during the workday, when I'm hating my life, stressed at work, I remember that I have a delicious little lollipop to brighten my day.
And when you join Thrive Market, you're also helping a family in need with their 1-for-1 membership matching program. You join and they give. So save time and money and shop Thrive Market today. Go to thrivemarket.com/TCS for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/TCS, thrivemarket.com/TCS.
So it's not known exactly what time Suzie and Stacy arrived back home, but it's assumed they did make it back because their clothes and jewelry and purses and vehicles and other things from that they wore out that night, they were found back at the home. So some reports say that they arrived back around 2:15 a.m., but again, we don't really know.
There's a lot of varying reports in this. I've even, when I was trying to do the notes, some things say one time, just not even just for that, for other things that happen in the case. But I also, you have to remember this is pre-cell phones, pre-CCTV. So a lot of it just kind of relies on witness testimony and things like that, which isn't as reliable.
Yeah. The next day, Janelle, the friend whose house that they were supposed to stay at that night, Her and her boyfriend went to Suzie's home because they were all going to go to the water park together, like we mentioned. And they were originally going to stay at Janelle's, so they would have all left from there. Since they didn't, Janelle went over to pick them up. So Janelle apparently tried calling the home and got no answer. Some reports say that Janelle went to the house at 9 a.m. and some say noon. So Janelle found that the home's front door was unlocked and she entered and there's no sign of any of the three women. Janelle noticed that Suzie and Sherrill's dog, a Yorkie named Cinnamon, was inside and that the dog appeared agitated. And while Janelle was in the home, the phone rang and she answered it. She said the call was strange and disturbing. The caller was an unidentified male who made sexual innuendos. She hung up and the person called back again, speaking sexually. That's like creepy because like, is this person watching the house?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I have never really seen it confirmed how long she was in the house for. Like, it sounds like they probably spent, let's just say, half an hour there. But for the phone to ring twice in that short amount of time, for some creep to be on the other end, it is scary. Like, yeah, it sounds
Especially
like
in
maybe they were being
hindsight,
watched.
like-
Yeah. When at that time she might, and back in, this is also, as we mentioned, pre-cell phones. So, people used to do prank calls and stuff and you couldn't see who was calling, so people would answer. But just seems like a big coincidence for the house to be empty and for these calls to come in when someone is there in a short amount of time.
Yeah, scary. So Janelle and her boyfriend found that the glass lampshade on the porch was shattered, although the light bulb inside was still intact. So they swept up the glass off the porch, thinking that they were doing something nice to help out. But later it was thought that they could have been contaminating evidence. And then after that, Janelle and her boyfriend left. So a few hours later, Stacy's mother, because as we said, Stacy was staying at the house as well. Her mother, Janice, went to the home after Stacy had failed to answer the phone calls. When she entered the home, she noticed that the purses of all the women were on the floor in the living room. She also saw Stacy's clothing from the night before, neatly folded. Weird that the purses were all on the floor in the living room. I feel like that's probably not normal.
Yeah.
As they walked toward the house, more signs of trouble.
There was glass on the porch.
A lamppost was shattered. Two friends quickly sweep up the mess and throw it in a dumpster across the street.
They cleaned it off because they knew that Sherrill wouldn't like that.
They knock. There's no answer. Then they slowly turn the doorknob.
And I thought, why would they leave their front door unlocked? And I hollered and I said, Stacy, Suzie, and called for Sherrill. Nobody was answering.
The lights are off and the television is on, but the screen is snow.
Like they had been watching a show or a movie or something, and that went off.
Then, out of the shadows, a tiny figure comes barreling toward them. It's Suzie's little dog, Cinnamon, and she's freaked out.
The dog was in there just going crazy, or just yipping and crying.
They cautiously creep toward the bedroom.
Sherrill's house is immaculate, and I said either she'd already made up her bed or she hadn't gone to bed.
No signs of struggle.
Right, no signs of struggle. Everything was nice and neat.
Then something stops them in their tracks. All three of the women's purses are neatly lined up beside each other. Nothing seemed to be missing, but there was something else strange. Sherrill never went anywhere without her cigarettes.
Sherrill is a chain smoker. Her cigarettes and purse are right here.
Suzie and Sherrill's cigarettes were also inside the home. Television had been left on, and Stacy's migraine medication was left behind. There was a graduation cake for the girls that was found in the fridge, and it also appeared that the women had gotten ready for bed. Each had washed off their makeup and put damp cloths in the hamper, and jewelry was left by the sink. Some reports say that Sherrill's glasses were found next to her bed, as well as a book that had been turned over, like as if showing that she had been reading in the middle of whatever had occurred. The blinds in Suzie's bedroom had been pulled apart as if someone might have been looking outside the window. All three vehicles belonging to the women were parked in the driveway. Sherrill's blue Corsica was in the carport. Suzie's red Ford Escort was on the Circle Drive, and Stacy's Corolla was parked behind it. And the keys to all three vehicles were found inside the house. So Janice realized that something was wrong, and she called police from inside the home to report the three women missing. After she made the call, she checked the phone's answering machine and said there was a strange message on it. but she actually accidentally erased the message from the tape.
I'd love to know what it said. I tried to see if she's ever spoken about it, but I've never been able to have it see it confirmed what the message was.
Even though it seems crazy that she like accidentally deleted it, if you think about it and you're in that moment where your adrenaline's kind of going, and maybe she had a similar answering machine where you just autopilot, like hit delete.
Yeah.
And then she was probably just like, oh shit. Probably the worst feeling, like when you delete it. It's believed that around 16 hours had passed before the women ended up being reported missing. Worried friends and family arrived at the home and entered the house during that period, and it's estimated that 10 to 20 people had been inside the house, which totally contaminated the crime scene. Reminds me of John Bonet, where the whole town showed up and was running around the house. When police did arrive, there was no sign of a struggle apart from the shattered porch light. They noted that Sherrill's bed had been slept in. They left a note on Sherrill's door asking her to call the police and to cancel the missing persons report once she and the girls arrived home, which seems so
I guess
silly.
they just thought, like, again, we've spoken about in the past, how you never really think the worst is going to happen. So they'd be like, oh, they've just, and especially with 3 women, like, how can you get 3 women out of the house? That's just, I guess they just thought they've gone off somewhere for whatever reason and they'll come back. But
yeah, it just also seems silly because it's, again, like a sign of the times where they like left a note on the door because there's no cell phones or anything. The retired Springfield police captain Tony Glenn said the only thing unusual about this house was that 3 women were missing from it. You had this feeling as you looked around that something was missing, that something had to be missing, but there wasn't, just them. When the women didn't turn up on June 15th, 1992, police released a composite sketch of an unidentified transient man that had been seen in the area. This man had long hair and a full beard, and neighbors had reported seeing him near their house. Within days, more than 20,000 posters of the women had been printed and were stuck on store windows and telephone poles. Police even dug up anthills that callers thought could be fresh graves. They looked for circling buzzards in the hope that they would lead them to the bodies of the women. So just they were putting in a lot of effort, it seemed, to try to find them.
It's real old school detective work because that's all they had back then. Like, it wasn't like they had all this technological stuff they could look at. Literally, they had nothing.
Not everyone had Ring doorbells and CCTV
and mobile
at their
phone
house.
pings and stuff like that. There was nothing. So it would have been so tough because literally, where do you start? Like, if you've got nothing, how do you even know where to look?
Mm-hmm. So the disappearance of the women was featured on America's Most Wanted during the first week of their disappearance, and it sparked 29 tips being called in. A possible sighting of the woman was called in on June 24th. A waitress at George's Steakhouse, which was one of Sherrill's favorite restaurants, said that the 3 women had dined there on the night they vanished between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. The waitress said that Suzie appeared intoxicated and that Sherrill was trying to calm her down. This sighting has never been able to be verified. I feel like that one wouldn't make sense if it was just the 2 girls, maybe. But like, why would the mom be with them between 1 to 3 when it seemed like she was reading in her bed?
It is. I feel like also I don't think that's likely, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Another possible sighting was called in days after the woman vanished. A witness reported seeing a woman matching Suzie's description driving an older model moss green Dodge van later in the day on June 7th. The witness said the woman appeared terrified, that she heard a male voice say, "Don't do anything stupid." Additional witnesses reported seeing the Dodge van in the area at the time of the disappearances. Another man told the police he saw a blonde female sitting in the driver's seat of the van while it was parked at a grocery store. The man said he wrote down the van's license plate as it seemed suspicious, but that he threw out the paper he wrote it on. And this man was actually hypnotized to see if he could recall the numbers of the license plate, but he was only able to recall the first 3 digits. So we tried.
Yeah.
Other witnesses reported hearing a woman scream and squealing tires in Greene County, Missouri, early on June 7th. So on January 2nd, 1993, an anonymous caller called America's Most Wanted and appeared to have information regarding the disappearance of the women. The call was cut off, though, when the switchboard operator tried to put the call through to Springfield police. Police said the caller had prime knowledge of the abductions and publicly appealed for the man to contact them, but he never did.
I feel like there's so
I
much,
wonder what he said.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much bad luck in this case. Like that being cut off, the answering machine thing getting deleted. It's just like so many small things that could have maybe helped with the case that just
The man throwing out the paper with the license plate.
Yeah. It's just so many little things all hindering the case.
Because today, this would never happen because there's so many like internet sleuths investigators ready to solve the crime.
That we say it would never happen, but then we're still going on 18 months later with Brian Koberger and his junk and nothing's happened.
My God.
Like, even though I feel like now we know more, but sometimes it still is hard to get anything done.
Yeah. So in August 1993, police searched an area of land in Webster County, Missouri for the women. They refused to say what was located at the site and if anything was found even pertained to the case. In 2002, an additional tip would come in from 2 women that led officials back to that same area, which is, it's like, did they hear about that area and thought of a tip, or is it like that area actually means something? There's so many like non-answers. At this point, like, give us all the info. Police, please. The 2 women said that they knew 2 men who had been employed at a local concrete company that once owned that site in Marshfield, Missouri. The women said the individuals drove a van that may have been used to abduct the women. They said the men left Springfield shortly after the disappearances. Police did confirm that the men worked at the company in 1992, but they were unable to identify them or confirm that they drove a van. Jumping ahead slightly, cadaver dogs did locate 2 possible areas of interest at the site in 2002, but authorities said they did not prove there were human remains buried there. Police eventually said that it is unlikely that that site was connected to the disappearance.
So 5 years after the disappearances, Sherrill and Suzie were declared dead in court by their family. There's an old school newspaper article about it that runs through its court. It says, missing Missouri women legally declared dead. And they basically did so to free up the assets of Sherrill's father, James Williams. So I'm assuming he passed away. And then because Sherrill was, I guess, a inheritee, was going to inherit some of his estate, they needed to declare her dead so they could get all that sorted. Stacy's parents, though, did not declare her dead, as they said they had hoped that she was still alive. And then at the 10-year mark of the disappearances, Janice, Stacy's mother, spoke to the media. She said, I want them to find my daughter. She spoke as she had pictures of Stacy scattered all around the house. She said, you can go through so much, but you still want an answer. For them not to give us an answer, that was difficult. So by 2015, 5,000 tips had come in over the years, and investigators had compiled over 27,000 documents. They said that by that point, 100 tips a year was still coming in. So that's still 2 tips a week over, 20 years after these women disappeared. It's a lot still. Mm-hmm. One of the tips, and if you have followed this case, this is probably one of the more recent happenings, but one of these tips involved information that the women had been buried in the foundations of a parking garage at Cox Hospital in Springfield. Darryl Moore, who was the first assistant at the Greene County Prosecutor's Office at the time that the women vanished, later spoke about that tip. He said the tip came from someone who either claimed to be a psychic or claimed to have a dream or vision about the case. He said that he can't really recall the specific details. He went on to say, it was in the category of, my dog is psychic and he's telling me there are bones there. It was along that line. If we had sought a search warrant based on that, we would have been laughed out of court. But despite him not thinking it's credible, in 2007, crime reporter Kathy Baird asked Rick Norland, who was a mechanical engineer, to scan the corner of the parking garage with ground-penetrating radar. Rick apparently found 3 anomalies of roughly the same size that were consistent with a gravesite location. 2 of the anomalies were parallel and the other one was perpendicular. Springfield Police Department spokesperson Lisa Cox said that the person who reported this tip about the parking garage provided no evidence or logical reasoning behind this theory at the time or since then. She also said that the parking garage began construction in September 1993, over a year after the disappearances. She said digging up the area and subsequently reconstructing this structure would be extremely costly and without any reasonable belief that the bodies could be located here. It's illogical to do so, and for these reasons, the police department does not intend to. Investigators have not determined this lead to be credible.
I think that was so many words.
I know, but
they said.
There's been a whole bunch of documentaries that you may have seen. I think there was even a podcast about this kind of aspect of the case, about how these anomalies looked like they could be the women because they were the right size of their bodies. I guess the thing about them being constructed a year after they disappeared or after they vanished, I guess they still could have buried the skeletons there, but I guess, I don't know, would they be full skeletons by that
why
point?
don't they just get like better ground penetrating radar that we have in the year of 2024? I'm sure there's something they could do, at least just to put it to rest.
Yeah.
Just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses and craving another fantasy world to devour. I know that book gives a pretty bad book hangover from experience, but don't worry, Dipsy's got you. Dive into spicy enemies to lovers' tales and embark on an epic romance between immortal fae and sworn foes. They've got fantasy romance stories perfect for your morning walk, late night, or a long bath. Dipsy is an app full of hundreds of short, spicy audio stories. They bring scenarios to life with immersive soundscapes and realistic characters. Discover stories about second chance romances, adventurous vacation flings, and hot and heavy hookups. There's a growing library of fantasy series with werewolves, Greek gods and goddesses, Regency-era historical fiction, and fairy smut to explore the bounds of your pleasure. New content is released every week, so in between listening to your favorite stories again and again, you can always find something new to explore. Dipsy offers a modern approach to romance through high-quality and captivating audio fiction. For listeners of the show, Dipsy is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/TCS. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/TCS. dipsystories.com/TCS.
So Daryl Moore spoke about other instances where they investigated tips in the case. He said once a psychic called to say the bodies were in a blanket buried near water. He said people have dreams and visions. I'm sure they mean well, but it was a waste of police resources. He also spoke about 2 additional times when search warrants were granted to dig for bodies. He said one tip was that the bodies were in a cave or some type of depression in Webster County, and the other one was that they were buried in an abandoned farmhouse in Barry County. He said the allegation was that a green van was involved. The tip was that the van and the bodies were buried on this property, which is kind of interesting because you mentioned the moss green van where the women were apparently screaming and the guy said, don't do anything stupid. So I feel like there are a lot of tips about this green van, which maybe leads me to think that that could have possibly actually been an aspect of the case.
Yeah.
But investigators did tear up the flooring of the house and they dug outside and nothing was found. So seems like another false lead. So in terms of suspects in the case, there are a lot of names, which we'll run through most of them, but the 2 main ones that seem to pop up frequently, the first one is Dustin Reckler. He's an ex-boyfriend of Suzie's. So Dustin was a criminal. He seems like a bit of a bad guy. He had broke into a mausoleum a few months before the women vanished and he stole $30 worth of gold fillings from a skull. Seems like a lot of effort for $30 of gold, but
yeah.
Suzie ended up giving a statement to investigators about the robbery and she was rumored to be maybe going to be a probable witness against him in court. So I guess that's the motive that people are pointing to, that he wanted to get rid of her before she could testify against him. Dustin and 2 of his other friends, Michael Clay and Joseph Radell, were known to be together. Those guys were all involved in the robbery of the gold fillings and they were known to be together in the area of where the women vanished in June. Dustin also apparently had connections to the Galloping Goose Motorcycle Club, which is a group with a known history of violence. So, this seems like maybe it could be credible, but in the end, Dustin and the men all cooperated with police regarding the grave robbing and they all got probation. So, I feel like that kind of discredits that a little bit because would he have really been so worried about Suzie turning on him that he would murder all 3 women if he was going to get probation anyway? Seems like just a minor-ish crime, maybe not enough to kill 3 women, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, that escalated.
We'll get into the other one who's mentioned most a little bit later. We'll just go through some of the others that are in relation to the case. So Larry Dwayne Hall and his twin brother Gary are often brought up in connection. Larry is suspected to be a serial killer and it's thought he worked in conjunction with Gary. It has been confirmed that Larry has killed 2 women, but he has confessed to killing up to 39. He confessed to a number of these but later recanted them. Police suspect he may have killed up to 50 women. There is no confirmation, though, that Gary and Larry. There is no confirmation that Larry and Gary were in the area at the time. There are some rumors that Gary confessed to stalking and killing the women, but this has never been confirmed. I guess the most interesting part of this theory is that Larry did own a Dodge van at the time, which matched the description of the moss green van given by all these witnesses. So that's kind of an interesting maybe parallel. The Streeter family have a blog where they also name possible suspects. One they mention is Gerald Carnahan. Gerald has been convicted of first-degree murder and forcible rape in another case. He was local to Springfield. His family owned a foundry in the area, which I guess it's insinuated that he could have dumped the bodies there. Gerald was known to be a repeat offender of crimes against women, and he was in the area at the time the women disappeared. The Streeter family also mentions Stephen Eugene Garrison on their website. This info about him is from the News Leader. It says Garrison told police a friend had confessed to killing the 3 women during a drunken party. He told police information unknown to the public that led investigators to serve 3 search warrants at 2 sites in Western Webster County. He also said that they would find the women's bodies and clues about their abductions and deaths. He also said a moss green van believed to be used to take the women would be found around 12 miles away. Police were so convinced of his information that a judge ordered a gag order on the search warrants. No one knows what was on them or if anything of substance has been found at all. So Stephen Garrison is currently serving 40 years in prison for raping, sodomizing, and terrorizing a female Springfield college student in the summer of 1993. So I guess a lot of that lines up. Even though he's telling police that someone else did it, he seems to have a lot of information about the crime. He obviously committed crimes against a female around the same time that this happened. I feel like this one seems like it could be credible.
The only thing that is weird to me, this is the Garrison one, right? We're talking about. So I said, told police a friend had confessed to killing, well, I guess that part would be the lie.
Yeah.
Killing 3 women during a drunken party because, like, the mom was never at the party.
No.
So, but I guess if it was really him, like, that'd be what he's lying about anyways.
And that's how he just made up a story to say why they're all together, I guess.
Why he knew about it. Because I always think it was him. That's just kind of a random thing. But when it's like the killers, especially in the past with serial killers where they had all this time to, like, dilly-dally and give hints, when it's like they can't just keep their friggin' mouth shut. They have to find a way to be like, oop, I know something, or, like, give a little hint. Because it's just like their ego needs to be fed.
So as we mentioned, that Dustin, who was Susie's ex-boyfriend, he's one person brought up a lot in the case. The second one I feel like probably gets the most media attention as possibly being related is a man named Robert Craig Cox. In 1997, he told journalists that he knew the women had been murdered and he claimed their bodies would never be found. Robert is a convicted kidnapper and robber, and he's also a suspect in a Florida murder. He was convicted of the murder of Sharon Zellers in Florida in 1978, but his conviction was later reversed by the Florida Supreme Court due to a lack of evidence. So Robert had been living in Springfield in 1992. He was interviewed at the time the women went missing and told police that he'd been with his girlfriend at church when the women vanished, which is weird. Like, they vanished maybe at 3 or 4 a.m. What kind of church are you at? But I guess, you know, he could have been at church that morning.
I was thinking that too when I read the notes.
But his girlfriend corroborated the story, but then she later recanted and she told police that Robert had told her to say they were at church. Robert had previously been employed as a mechanic at the same workplace as Stacy's father. When the women disappeared, he was working as a locator at a Springfield company that locates and marks underground utilities. So Robert has written to the media over the years. He first wrote to the News Leader in 1997 about how Sergeant Kevin Ruth had asked him during an interview to reveal where the bodies were. He wrote, "I told them that I wanted closure too. I'm tired of the harassment I have received because of my association to this case. Then I told Sergeant Ruth if I could tell him where the bodies were, that he would come after me with an indictment and seek the death penalty." He went on to write that he could tell the News Leader reporter where the bodies were, but he wouldn't do so because then the reporter would have to give him up to police. So that was the first one of those letters was 1997. As of 2014, he's still writing to the News Leader. He wrote, "I have done locates." I don't know if that means locations or if it's a typo, but it says, "I have done locates all over Springfield. I have done work in the area of the house where the abduction occurred." So Sharon Zeller's mother, she was the woman who was murdered and he was convicted and then it was overturned. Sharon Zeller's mother, Dorothy, has spoken to the media about his possible involvement in this case. She said, "I just knew it was him. I knew it. I said to myself, Cox did this." That's in regards to the 3 missing women. Robert has stated to journalists that he will reveal what happened to the women once his mother passes away. Sergeant Mike Owen has spoken about Robert's apparent confessions. He said, "All our eggs are not in Cox's basket. We're still looking at lots of different people. If tomorrow we had a lead and solved this case and it wasn't Cox, I wouldn't be surprised." So Sherrill's dad, Jim Williams, died in 1997, and he told people that he believed Robert was the perpetrator. Cliff Williams, who's Sherrill's uncle, said, "He told me, I'm sure that's the guy. I just don't know if they'll be able to prove it." Janice McCall has also spoken about Robert possibly being involved. She said, I would like him if he knows something to tell what he knows. He's going to be in prison another 20-some years. His appeals are gone by the wayside. He said they were dead and buried around Springfield. How does he know that? I don't know if he'll ever give up the right information. I want to know where my daughter is. That's what I would ask the man. So that is kind of it. There are some other suspects that we haven't really mentioned because I feel like they're very unlikely. One of the other suspects apparently is Janelle Kirby, the friend who swept up the light on the porch. I feel unlikely. Bart Streeter, who was Sherrill's older son, is another suspect. Again, I feel like probably unlikely, but just to mention that he
I think they would have figured that out
in relation
by
to
now.
the case. Yeah, you would think so. So I did find like there's a whole Reddit discussion on this. Someone has ranked the suspects that they believe from most likely to least likely. They said Gerald Carnahan is number 1, Stephen Garrison number 2, Larry and Gary Hall number 3. And they say 4 were criminals that Suzie knew, 5 Robert Craig Cox, 6 Bart Streeter, 7 Dustin Reckler, who was the ex-boyfriend, and 8 Janelle Kirby. I would probably say, like, I feel like Robert may just be doing it for the attention. It sounds that way. I do think
His
Stephen
story doesn't
Garrison,
even make sense.
No, but Stephen Garrison does seem like a possible suspect to me. But again, like the detective said, I could go any way with any of these guys, and I wouldn't be surprised that any of them were involved.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It sucks. It seems like they must not have any DNA. Like, I wonder if they ever had DNA or any type of evidence from the house. Like, I know it's in the 70s. I mean, in the 90s, where it wasn't as easy to get DNA like that and then like preserve it for all this time too. But it's happened because there are cases that are solved when they're able to do it. But since they kept being like, oh, the crime scene was contaminated, all these people were in the house, and they didn't even really see any signs of forced entry, I feel like they don't even have anything.
No. Well, they said the only kind of sign of a struggle was the broken, but that even doesn't really make sense to me. I guess maybe one of the women could have knocked at it as they were being let out of the house. But
or maybe whoever it was did that to try to like lure them out.
Yeah, like, what's that noise? Maybe that's why they were looking out the window to see what broke or whatever. But
yeah, I feel like whatever happened definitely happened from the house, not like how the guy was like, oh, it was the party. Because the mom seems like she was at the house in bed,
reading in bed,
reading.
Yeah.
And the girls were back, like we said. They looks like they took off their makeup and all their stuff was there. So it's like, did someone see the girls out and follow them? And the mom was just like collateral damage because she was there and woke up. But it's interesting. There's no signs of a struggle. But it's like, could this person have just had a weapon and they listened?
Yeah, like I wonder if this person followed the 2 girls home from the party, kind of watched while they went in,
waited for them to look like they were going to bed.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned that I think it was Stacy. They believe that she just left in a t-shirt and underwear because she didn't have any other clothes because she wasn't planning to stay there.
Oh,
so
right.
Like maybe he watched them get ready and then went up, smashed the light shade, and they looked out the window to see what was happening and opened the door and, hey, what are you doing?
If I heard glass shatter outside, I'd be like, weird. I'm not getting up to go look.
I actually should have told this story at the start. So when we stayed in Sydney on the weekend, and this is just along those lines, so it's not a random story. We were up and it was 1:30 in the morning. We were just all chatting. Like, and we rented an apartment off booking.com, so it wasn't an Airbnb or anything. Anyway, all of a sudden we hear this banging on the door, and it's a secure apartment complex where you need like a fob to actually get in the front door, and then you walk up to your apartment and open that with another key. And I'm like, hello. And he's like, hi, I bring good vibes and peace. And I'm like, go away.
Who are you?
Anyway, so he started going on about these good vibes and peace. And he's like, open the door. And I said, absolutely not. Like, one girl was so scared. She's like, I'm going to go and hide in a cupboard because this was like 1:30, 2 a.m. And he's like, I bring good vibes and peace, open the door. I'm like, absolutely not. Go away or I'm going to call the police. And he got really agitated and he was like, shut the fuck up, and started yelling. And like the dog across the hall was barking. We're like, oh my God. Like, and he was like banging on the door, and eventually he just went away. But the thing is too, this door didn't have a peephole, so we still don't even know who it was. We obviously didn't open the door. So, at least if I could have looked to see what kind of person this was, you would have more of an idea about what you're dealing with. But maybe the same type of thing, like, if, I don't know, I guess if a split second decision, if one of them just opened them to peek out, he could have pushed through, it was, weird.
Yeah, that's really scary. I would have immediately called police or something.
I know. And we were like, should we tell, because it's like a private rental on booking.com. We're like, should we tell the guy? And we haven't yet. Like, and it was, in the end, it was all fine. We left the next day and didn't see anyone, but it was a weird situation. And it just shows you, like, because one of my friends is like, I'm so glad it was you, Olivia, because I would have definitely opened the door.
What?
Like to say go away. And I'm like, absolutely not.
You could say that with the door closed.
But yeah. Just shows you, like, you know, just you don't know how you're going to act. And if one of them made the wrong decision to open the door, or even if he just burst through the door. But I feel like if he had broken down the door, there would have been evidence of that. I feel like they opened the door to see what was maybe going on with this smashed light, and he was there waiting for them. He or they were there waiting for them.
Yeah. One thing I've learned from true crime, or even just this one thing my anxiety helps me with, is like, I'm not opening the door. There could be someone out there knocking, like, I'm not opening it. I'm never opening the door. If I'm not expecting you to come here, the door's not being opened.
Especially in this case too, it was probably 3 a.m.-ish or like around then. So nothing good ever happens after midnight.
I literally just thought of the only way you would ever lure me out. I shouldn't even put this out there because it could be used to trick anyone. Is if, like, I'm expecting an Amazon package that day and you fake deliver an Amazon package. But even then, I don't get it, like, right away. And I have cameras, so don't even try it, everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just strange that there's no signs of, like, forced entry or anything. But then again, not to be like, am I doubting the police? But I'm like, did they look, like, at everything? Because at first they seem to be like, just leave a note, like, they'll be back.
Yeah, I would like to know.
And the purse is on the floor of the living room.
Yeah.
That's
like,
weird.
to be fair, their house kind of did look small, so maybe that was just their routine. They'd walk in and just put their purses down so that they were there when they were ready to leave, like, the
were
next
they
day
on the
or whatever.
Side of the living room, or
I don't know. A lot of questions, a lot of small errors or mistakes, like the answering machine, you know, sweeping up the light, all that type of thing that maybe could have been of some assistance in figuring out what happened.
If the person who was, like, calling, which I'm suspecting it is, because that'd be a weird circumstance, is the killer, it seems like it was sexually motivated, like a creep, not just like an act. Obviously, it's probably not an accident where you're killing 3 women and taking them, but it seemed like this person was like a predator for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It seems like someone who was watching them or stalking them.
So scary.
I feel like it's the only way we'll have an update is if Robert or someone else eventually really does confess and tell people where the bodies are, or if someone just comes across their bodies. But 32 years later, it's not, I wouldn't say it's looking very hopeful that there will be a resolution.
I wish with a case like this, they would just, like, release the case file. I understand why
they
don't, but at this point, it's like, come on.
I feel like, you know, I wonder if people could get it under a freedom of information thing. Probably not, because they'll say it's still open, but surely
they need to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Especially if most of these people who they're investigating are still in jail anyway. Like, what, you know?
Yeah.
Can't hurt, you wouldn't think.
Yeah, maybe in another 10 years I'll think about it. So that's really it. Maybe we'll get an update, but I doubt it.
Imagine.
Would love to hear what everyone thinks, what your theories are, so send them our way. There'll be a blog, like there always is, at truecrimesocietyblog.com if you want to read more about the case. And follow us on Instagram. So we're always posting about all the current cases and updates and everything. We're at True Crime Society on Instagram. And if you want to follow our personal accounts, mine's StephSum_, Olivia's TCS Olivia. Check out what we're up to. And we're on Patreon now. We do weekly bonus episodes, and we do all the episodes without ads. Also do earlier releases of the regular episodes. We got some fun chats and everything on there. So if you want more content, check us out on there. And then all the usual stuff. Share the podcast to your Instagram stories. Leave us some nice ratings and reviews. And tell a friend. That's all I have to say.
Not one friend. Tell all your friends.
Many friends. Tell
unless you've only got one.
Tell that friend. Tell everyone. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there. Don't open the door for anyone ever.
Especially not at 2 a.m. Yeah.
No, never.